Today we will delve into the tax holiday rebate and the $250 that are no longer coming your way. Or wait, maybe they are. Kind of, sort of, to be determined. I will also update you on the good, the bad, and the ugly. At the very end, I will give you my opinion and what I wish my boy JT had done instead. I'm your host, Manu, and welcome to another episode of Sweet Money. On November 21st, my boy JT made a huge announcement that his thugs would offer a 2-month tax holiday from December 14th to February 14th. Now you might be wondering, why was the grocery store empty? Reason number one, Canadians have stopped hanging out at grocery stores because they can't afford anything, so why bother going? And reason number two, those who did manage to save $20 for groceries, when they found out JT was standing inside, they made a sharp right turn. During that same press conference, JT announced that his cronies would be depositing $250 in April for those who had earned less than $150,000 in 2023, assuming your tax returns were filed by December 31st, 2024. On November 28th, the Canadian Press published an article stating that the bill for the sales tax holiday had been passed, and all it had to do at this point was go through the Senate for final approval. Each province will get a different tax holiday. Here's a complete list, starting from east to west. This is how much you will save at the till. The GST rebate will affect retailers, restaurants, grocers, online marketplaces, and food delivery businesses, among others, that sell qualified goods, including specified children's clothes and toys, alcoholic beverages, and prepared meals. And in the description, you'll find some links to some must-know information. Now that you have the backdrop, let's get into the good. So, moving on. The bad. People who are done with their Christmas shopping might go back and return their goods in order to take advantage of the sales tax holiday. And this has a crippling effect on retailers. Retailers for the first 9 months, 10 months of the year are breaking even or making slim margins. On top of that, if they're returning their November sales and December sales, it makes it even worse. If the traffic is low in retail stores, then they will be laying off associates who count on the Christmas holiday season to get their hours and make ends meet. That money that they generate over the 2-month period is what carries them for the rest of the year. And these salespeople who work on minimum wage have been robbed of these vital hours. In addition, when a product is returned, there is no guarantee that consumers will come back to the exact same store and purchase that exact same item. In the past, I've talked about JT's divisive policies, and now he's added another one to the list. One that comes to mind is those who heat their homes with oil get a discount off of their heating bill. However, those Canadians who heat their homes with natural gas are not entitled to any rebate or discount. Why is that? Where I live in Ontario, I can only heat my home with natural gas. I am not entitled to these rebates or discounts. Why am I being punished when I don't even have the option of choosing between natural gas and oil? Either JT isn't capable of putting together a plan that benefits all Canadians equally, or perhaps he just likes to be a jerk to random individuals. And this time around, he does something very similar. He introduces a tax holiday, but depending on which province you live in, your rebate might be at a different percentage. For example, if you live in Ontario, you get a saving of 13%. But if you live in British Columbia, you only get a saving of 5% because their provincial and federal sales tax are not harmonized. Now, why are people in BC being punished? And what happens now is lobbyists and other irrelevant minority political parties are going to put pressure on the provincial governments, such as BC, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, to give a provincial sales tax holiday from December 14th to February 14th. But why should they have to do this? Why should they have to ruin their budget? It creates unnecessary conflict, resentment, and peer pressure on a government body who is trying to be fiscally responsible. The ugly. Many small retailers do not have the financial means to hire an accountant, go into the POS system, and make adjustments to their sales tax tables. And then 2 months later, rehire that same accountant for them to come back and readjust the POS sales tax table to where it was originally. Whatever profits or benefit this sales tax holiday will bring to the retailer, if any, will be eaten up by what the accountants will charge. If all this wasn't ugly enough, many retailers are guaranteed to cut corners and become non-compliant. And this will expose them to penalties, interests, and audits. And the opposite might also happen, in which they might overpay the sales tax portion to the government because they haven't made the necessary adjustments, which is just as bad because that money should have been their profit. And quite frankly, the 5% rebate in Saskatchewan or Manitoba is a slap in the face. At this very moment, how many Canadians can afford to go on a shopping spree and buy clothes, eat out every night, and spend that $1,000 just to save $50? I mean, this policy is great for wealthy Canadians. I mean, wealthy Canadians who want to replenish their wardrobe with brand name clothes, the wealthy who want to purchase high-end alcohol, who want to go out and eat in fancy restaurants and spend a lot of money, they'll benefit. It's great for them. But the average working Canadian is really not going to benefit a whole lot. And if you do the math on your own personal budget, you will quickly realize it's a gimmick. The alcohol tax break really bothered me. It's not because I don't drink. It's because those who can afford their alcohol really don't need a break. I wish instead they had given a tax break off of children's activities, such as basketball lessons, art class, tutoring. Diapers are part of this tax break, and quite frankly, I think diapers should be tax exempt every month, every year, regardless. JT on November 21st said that groceries would be exempt from taxes because of the sales tax holiday. His finance minister, Freeland, standing next to him, also stayed quiet because she also wasn't aware of the fact that groceries already are exempt from sales tax. However, where you will save your taxes are on confectionery, which means your chips, your cookies, and all other useless garbage that we should not be feeding our children because we already have an obesity issue in this country. And let's be honest, feeding our kids more cookies and chips because we save on sales tax is not good parenting. And for a prime minister who has children of his own, he really didn't put much thought into this. As of this recording, the federal debt sits at $2.1 trillion. My boy JT is responsible for $0.85 trillion of the total, which represents 40%. He still has another year to go, worst case scenario, which means this deficit, this debt, will only get worse. The tax break removes $1.6 billion from the government coffers. And there's two ways to look at it. A, it's a great thing because we'd rather keep the money in Canadians' pockets rather than the government. Or B, that $1.6 billion could have gone towards paying the debt, or perhaps the incoming government could have used that money to take Canada where it needs to be. At the end of this video, I will attach a thumbnail which will take you to a video of mine in which I talked about how JT is making Canadians dependent on handouts and freebies and these little gimmicky gifts. And as a result, what it does is that it subconsciously creates a society which becomes lazy and dependent on freebies. Our GDP is heading in the wrong direction. Our students are falling behind on the global stage. Canada is on the brink of being the first G20 nation of not having a federal postal service. We have practically been kicked out of the G7, and now financial pundits are saying the Canadian dollar might drop to 68 cents, where right now it's sitting at 71 cents in comparison to the US dollar. And by the way, the list goes on. Tongue in cheek, if I was running the government, these are the 4 things I would do effective immediately. I would dissolve Canada Post because we now have micro courier companies who work 7 days a week, who are more nimble, provide a cheaper price, and they provide better service. And CBC has reported the way things are going with Canada Post, by early 2025, their cash reserves will run out. In the past 5 years, Canada Post has lost $3 billion. If you pause for a second and think about that, it's very scary because during the pandemic, stores were closed. People were making their purchases through postal services and courier services, which means even in their heyday, they couldn't churn out a profit. So what makes you think they'll churn out a profit moving forward? Number two, I would allow Canadian doctors to open private facilities. It sounds controversial, but it's not. Let me explain to you why. Here are 3 reasons. Number one, it would reduce the wait time in our emergency centers. Number two, it would stop the brain drain of our well-qualified doctors who go to greener pastures in different countries. Number three, the left, through fear-mongering, have spread false information that capitalism only benefits the rich, which is the furthest thing from the truth. What capitalism does, it opens a playing field for anyone to come in and play, and the survival of the fittest, will move ahead. And studies have shown that capitalism and competition drives prices down, not up. What drives prices up is when the government gets involved, because the government have unions. Unions bump up salaries, which are above and beyond what the average working Canadian is receiving. Their benefits are far greater than what the average working Canadian is receiving, and their pension is better than what the average Canadian is receiving. And what this does is that it puts more pressure on the government and it inflates the debt. Whereas on the other hand, like I said, capitalism drives prices down because it promotes innovation, it promotes operational efficiency, and it promotes the use of technology to make things more nimble, which at the end of the day will drive prices down. Number three, the Scientific Research and Development Tax Credit, better known as SR&ED, is littered with falsified documents and fraud. $4.2 billion has been handed out between April 1st, 2023 and March 31st, 2024 for money that was used for scientific research, for developmental research. Instead, I would implement policies that progressive countries implement. I would offer credits on commercial leases. I would take the small business tax deduction, which currently sits at $500,000, and increase that to $1 million. In addition, I would take the small business tax deduction and eliminate it. In the US, if you own a partnership, there is no tax in that partnership. You will only get taxed in the US when that partnership draws money out as personal income. And then that individual in the partnership will get taxed on their personal income tax. Whereas in Canada right now, you get taxed at the CCPC at the corporate level, then you also get taxed at the individual level. It's a double taxation. And this does nothing but discourage entrepreneurship. Number four, and the last one, it's funny how they say we care about our students so much, we love our students so much, yet whenever they go on strike, it starts during September. Why is that? If you really love them so much, why are you starting your strike in September? Why are you holding your students hostage? So historically, teachers and students were given July and August as holiday because back in the days, the students would go and help their families on the family farm. So let me give you some historical context. 100 years ago, Canada was an agriculture-based economy. Most families owned farms. So the students were given July and August as holiday to go work on the family farm and plow the fields because they needed manpower. Then came World War I, the Industrial Revolution started, and people shifted from farming to factory work and entrepreneurship. And then from the Industrial Revolution, we have now moved into the digital revolution. So no one in the summer months is going to their family farm. That just doesn't happen. Then why are we giving teachers 2 months of paid holiday? Why are we giving them 2 weeks off during Christmas? Why are we giving them 1 week off during spring break? And by the way, this is all paid for, right? This is not they sit at home and don't get paid for watching TV. They get paid to sit at home and watch The Young and Restless. Why are they getting paid for all these mental days and I don't feel like coming to work days? And believe it or not, if you are not a Christian, you can take time off to celebrate your holiday and it will be paid. I mean, who gets these kinds of benefits, right? But let's just focus on the summer holidays. Why are teachers sitting at home for 2 months doing nothing while they watch soap operas and get paid? I don't understand this. We are paying for this. They have a full-time salary, a part-time job, and in addition, they get an extra 2 months off. What they need to be doing, because they love their students so much, they need to go into underprivileged communities and provide services to children who need guidance, moral support, so that they stay out of trouble. They need people who will actually speak with them and help them. So TD has called the Canadian dollar the Northern Pesos. It sounds funny, but quite frankly, we're not far from the truth. The Canadian dollar sits at 71 cents compared to the US dollars, and many pundits are saying it's going to hit 68 cents. Might even go below 68 cents. Who knows? Canada has become a global joke, and we need to stop the bleeding. We have been spoiled the past 60 years, and we're so spoiled that we now walk with a sense of entitlement. We are not even aware of what's happening in the outside world, of how quickly they are growing and progressing, and how quickly we are falling behind. The Canadian passport is no longer respected. If you want to visit England, you now have to apply for a visa. Think about that for a second. The party is over and it's time for the dreadful cleanup. We have to make some tough decisions. My request to all Canadians is, when a new rule or policy comes into play that benefits you personally, but pushes our country further down into a black hole, should you really be supporting that piece of legislation? Should you really be going on social media and praising it? The time has come for you to self-reflect. And remember, it all starts with a simple conversation.